DmC, Devil May Cry, basically stands for Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry. That's repetitive. But after the mixed reception of the DmC4, which as I pointed out in my review, my main problem was the backtracking to the degree. Capcom decided that maybe the best thing to do with Devil May Cry was to start over. Do what Transformers does every few years, reboot but keep the same characters and same story, just told a little differently. Even though there was nothing wrong with the DmC universe as it was, and as predicted, the internet went into colossal rage when the first screens of DmC appeared on the internet. Cries of "Not my Dante" rang out. I guess nothing's changed. Development of the game was handled not by Capcom, but by Ninja Theory, a developer who I'm not very familiar with. Word varied on whether or not the game was a prequel, a reboot, or an alternate continuity. The latter is pretty much what Capcom goes with nowadays. Well, let's start off with the story, which introduces us to our protagonist, Dante, who is naked. Why is he naked? But the story picks up with Dante getting pulled into Limbo City, which strangely displays text for some reason. The girl, named Kat, is a psychic link to the two worlds. She takes him to an underground bunker where Dante meets the resistant leader, who is his brother Virgil.
Our mother gave these to us. I think she knew that this moment would come, that we would find each other.
And our father, Sparta?
Banished forever. A fate worse than death, they say. He's never coming back.
Don't you love when a big dramatic scene is treated like, who cares? That pretty much sets the tone for this game. How shall I describe new Dante? Well, I guess a good comparison would be like new Coke. What was wrong with the old? Nobody wanted new Coke. He's rude. He treats everybody and everything with a condescending attitude, and overall, he's just not a very likable character. Fans call this Dante Dante or Dino, Dante in name only, so from this moment forward, that's the name I will use for him. He is now Dino. I just love the scene where Dino gets a wig.
Not in a million years.
He looked better that way! As for Virgil, oh god, this guy is not Virgil, so I will call him Vino. Virgil in name only. He lacks everything that made the original Virgil so iconic and badass. What made Virgil such an awesome character was how badass he was, but yet he still had a code of honor to what he did. There are lines that he wouldn't cross. This Virgil, on the other hand, shoots a pregnant woman's baby. It's so horrible. Now, to be fair, that's probably what you're supposed to feel, but it still comes off as jarring. This guy is also an absolute weakling. He constantly needs to be saved. Dante and Virgil are supposed to be equals, but in this game, it's very clear that Dino is Vino's superior in every way. The only character of this trio that I like is Kat, which is because she's the only character who seems to be a good person deep down, doing things because it's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, her character as a whole is rather shallow, I'd say. She doesn't have much of a character outside of being Dante's morality pet. She does get captured, and her injuries do last for the rest of the story, which is a nice touch, I guess. But there's not really much to say about her. Then there's Bob Bardas, who is basically a parody of Bill O'Reilly. They're not even subtle about that. Not that it matters anymore, considering he's irrelevant nowadays. But yeah, it's a classic example of what happens when a propaganda news corporation takes control of the airwaves. Then there's Mundus, who is reimagined as Lex Luthor. He's a businessman, and not a particularly memorable one. The original was a huge demon, it made it memorable. This guy is just, it ties into the larger problem. You know what this game's real problem is? It's trying way too hard to be edgy, to seem cool, to stand in with the younger crowd. The amount of F-bombs that are dropped throughout this game are more than the first 4 combined, which I don't recall had a lot of swearing. Want to be edgy? Let's have a sex scene. You want to be cool? Let's just have Dino keep flipping the bird. You know, when Nero did in DmC4, it was more of a, yeah, come get the sword if you want it so much. They didn't overdo it. The dialogue in this game is agonizingly painful. As if an edgy teenager wrote it. Look, we all went through that stage, and it's not a stage people look back fondly of.
Mundus is behind the vault door. Let's not keep him waiting. And I got a bigger dick.
What? What were you comparing? Who talks like this? The game does look beautiful. Ninja Fury definitely delivered on the visuals, but the soundtrack is really forgettable. It lacks the all-and-out rock approach that previous DMCs had. It's just another case of... well, I'll say it at the end, but you probably know what I'm talking about. The environments are well done, but why? Why are they all covered in swear words? I'm playing this off the Definitive Edition, which does run at 60 frames per second. The original release only ran at 30. Now, I don't know why that is. There are some technical problems with slowdown I've noticed, and one time after I was at the end of a battle, the demon got stuck in the wall and we couldn't damage each other. I had to reset the checkpoint to start the battle over. So annoying. The gameplay? Well, it's hack and slash. It's definitely an action game. Because Dino's half demon and half angel, that means he has two sets of weapons. A demonic set of weapons and an angelic set of weapons, and you can use them freely by pressing the trigger buttons, in addition to using the usual rebellion sword. It all works similar, but the game really emphasizes that you use a new grapple mechanic. Enemies will shield, and it's often needed for them so that you can damage them. You have to alternate between pulling them in or pulling yourself up to them. You do get Devil Trigger, but it suspends enemies up in the air and makes it easy for them to be defeated. The game is all about style, but it's style over substance, I'm sad to say. One thing that annoys me is that every time you win a battle, it closes in on Dino's face. What's the purpose? Is it to look cool? It's not cool. It's obnoxious. Also, you know what I didn't do very much in this game? Die. Devil May Cry was always known for having a challenge. This game is way too easy. I think I only died twice, and that was because I made a mistake, not because of game design. Now let's talk about the levels, because you spend most of the game in limbo. That means having to traverse over bottomless pits, and that means grappling, and more grappling to get across. The only thing I will praise it for, there is no backtracking. That's the one thing this game has over DMC4, which was just a giant backtracking machine at the halfway point. So this game does improve on that in a way. I just wish there was more to it than grapple over the ledge, keep going the way you're going. There are alternate paths, but they all lead to the same place, so I didn't find much of a point. But now let's just get into the final boss and ending. So skip to this time in the video if you don't want to be spoiled. So you go to the top where Mundus is, and the atmosphere of the fight is quite impressive. But unfortunately the fight is about moving to each platform, while Vino doesn't do anything to help. You wonder why I consider him a pale imitation of the original? This is why. He is getting owned by a mook while Dino is doing all the work. Mundus is defeated, and yet that's it. He falls to his death, and that's that. Then comes the final battle with Vino, because he's really evil. Yeah, big shocker there. I really shouldn't compare this to DMC3 because it seems unfair, but they are so desperately trying to go for the same feel. Let's compare this battle to DMC3. This is how it is in DMC3. This is Reboot DMC. Sure, you can feel the tension, the drama, the tragedy of two brothers fighting. Not really. Not to mention, Dinos tries to straight up murder his brother and is only stopped by Cat. Compare that to DMC3, where Dante reached out a hand to try and save his brother. Yeah, completely lacks any kind of feeling. Let's just end this. Before we go, there's the Virgil's Downfall DLC, which is Virgil, or Vino. It's 6 missions, so it's pretty short, but it actually tells a story for once. How is it that this game got that right, but the main games don't get it? But it's annoying because all Virgil does throughout his campaign is whine about how Dante is better than him. What a bitch. Even the cutscenes feel cheap.
I am free now, Father.
But yeah, that's set up for the inevitable sequel that'll never happen now. This game did not sell well at all, because it wasn't what people wanted. This game isn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not Devil May Cry. This game should have been an entirely new IP, rather than just slapping the Devil May Cry name on it. Apparently, when this game was re-released in 2015 with the DmC 4 Special Edition, DmC 4 outsold this game by twice the amount, which meant that when Capcom was to try again, it would be a return to the classic continuity, with a proper Devil May Cry 5. More on that next time. The only thing I'll say about this game is that you can play as classic Dante via skin. That's awesome.